My name is Jared Stern, and you're listening to Wrapped, the official podcast of the Tefillin Project, a project which gives tefillin to people who have never received a pair before. Here is where you will get to listen to the most inspiring people involved in the mitzvah of tefillin. On our fourth episode of Wrapped, I interviewed Mikey Goldman, a 20-year-old from Fairlawn, New Jersey, who is currently studying at the Shar in Shayashit. Right after high school, Mikey enlisted in the Marine Corps and simultaneously began his journey in discovering his Jewish roots. In this episode, Mikey explains his connection with the mitzvah and his story of receiving his first pair of tefillin from the Tefillin Project. Hi, Mikey. How's it going? Thank you for joining us for our fourth edition of Wrapped, the Tefillin Project podcast. Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about who Mikey is?
Would love to. First off, thank you so much for having me. Feels a pleasure. So my name is Mikey Goldman. I'm 20 years old. I currently study at the Shar, which is like a yeshivish program that's based out of Far Rockaway, New York. And a little bit about myself. I grew up in pretty Jewish town in North Jersey named Fairlawn, New Jersey. And in regards to my relationship with Judaism, it didn't really become an element of my daily life until the last year and a half. So after high school, when I was 18 years old, I enlisted into the Marine Corps. And during that time, I was away for roughly a year. And when I got back, during that same time, a lot of my peers, my friends, ended up going to college. And two of my closest friends actually got involved with their mayor campus rabbis over that year. So when I got back, my two closest friends have already begun their kind of like spiritual journeys and whatnot. And they started wrapping tefillin. And so for me, it was like a firsthand insight in terms of like what Judaism was in a way, because, obviously I was curious. We would hang out, I would have a sleepover with them, whatever. And then in the morning, I would wake up to them having, this leather band around their arm. They have something on their head. So out of curiosity, they kind of started explaining to me little by little what they've been learning over the last year, and especially like what tefillin was. And so that kind of evolved into me attending actually one of the weekly shiurs that my friend Aaron was a part of. We were going to Columbia University once a week, where Rabbi Hurwitz was running his Columbia Mayor like weekly shiurs, super like kind of basic introductory kind of topics to just help kids that never really had a formal Jewish learning experience, just to get them a little bit, get their feet wet, if you will. And so so for about like 6 to 8 months, I was studying with him once a week. And then afterwards, I started getting involved with Olami, which is a Jewish outreach group. And I did a handful of Shabbatons with them, met new rabbis, kept in touch, continued my learning. And then over this last summer, I actually did a 6-week program at the Shar, which I'm currently studying at right now.
Amazing.
And it was and that was actually around the time when I got the tefillin gifted to me. So it was a very, very like special moment for me. And just that time frame of that whole summer experience was just a lot of new ways of growing, if that makes sense, in my life. So that kind of leads us to where I am now, and I'm currently still studying at the Shar and in college as well, in the Marine Corps Reserve. So I got a few things on my plate, but that's a little bit about me.
Busy guy. Amazing. So I guess to start off, when your friends, you went to Marine Corps for a year after high school, and your friend went to college, and you started seeing them put tefillin on. What was that like initial feeling? Like, was it, I'm curious about what this is, like, why are they doing this? Like, you knew you were Jewish, but like, what sparks did you have within you that made you maybe decide maybe I should look into this further?
That's a really good question. I think it's like, I heard this conversation actually that could be relatable to this, where it's like, a man asked, a pretty observant Jewish man asked another younger guy who was also Jewish, what makes you Jewish? And the younger guy, he was like, well, I'm Jewish, like my last name is Goldman. It's a very Jewish name, right? So his response was like, well, yeah, like my mom is Jewish, so that makes me Jewish. But then the older man continued to ask, like, okay, but what do you do specifically that makes you Jewish? You can't just say that you're Jewish without doing things, right? And so that idea of like doing something to be able to really call yourself Jewish, I think that's what my friends were able to help show me in a sense through Tefillin. So when I did start asking those questions, of course it came from curiosity of like, oh, what is that? And it made me feel very curious in terms of like what they're doing. Um, and then after learning a little bit about, learning more about tefillin before I even got my actual pair, I really looked at tefillin as a way of just being able to connect with God, right? You're having a conversation with God, and it's actually really funny. Not many people know this, but before I got my pair of tefillin, but once I already knew what tefillin was and why we do it and how we do it, every morning I have a copy of the Tanakh, which actually I got not gifted to me. In military boot camp, you're obligated to have basically a Bible of whatever faith you follow. And so when I was the only Jew in my platoon, and so everyone received Bibles, but I received the Tanakh with obviously what I asked for, and I wasn't reading it during my military experience, but when I got back home, when my friends were putting on tefillin and I didn't have a pair of my own, every morning I would read like a little chapter of the Tanakh, like a one little, I don't know how to properly name it, but yeah. And so that was like kind of like for me, that was like my way of speaking to God in the morning. Obviously you can speak to God whenever, but a more kind of direct conversation. Um, so I kind of just I wanted to have that same experience. If like my friends are doing it in a more quote unquote proper way, I feel like I should do that as well. If I already have the urge to do so, the only thing that was kind of stopping me is the fact that I didn't have a pair of my own. If that makes sense. So
Got it. I guess, speaking of military boot camp, many people that, put tefillin on, I would say necessarily aren't, in the U.S. military per se. I know a lot right now in Israel are giving tefillin to every single person they could probably find. There's thousands and thousands of pairs going on. But what did it feel like being like that sole Jew in your platoon, filing and searching, I guess, looking more into what Tanakh means to him? Like that morning when you would do that kind of stuff, I guess when you came back, even like, what did
mhm.
that feel like? Did you feel like awakened? Did you feel sparked up? And did that lead you to eventually want to learn more about tefillin and Judaism and eventually lead to the shar?
Yeah, I mean, all in all, I remember when I was during my days of reading the Tanakh in the morning, I was very, very confused. I came from I really did not know really much about Judaism. So trying to read, the biblical text that has all these new names, new environments, like these timelines that are just kind of like you're trying to keep up with. It was very confusing for me personally. So a lot of the questions when I was asking rabbis were based on what I was reading in the Tanakh. So it's kind of like it's like I'm at a level where I should have floaties on when I go and swim at a pool. But
Mhm.
instead of swimming at a pool, you're trying to swim in the ocean. You know what I mean? So my experience of reading the Tanakh was really kind of, I was trying to bite off more than I can chew in a way, but I think it was coming from a good place of, my heart personally. And so um, what ended up leading me to getting my pair of tefillin was just like I was just super curious and I was very eager to learn more. And I think that's like a lesson in itself. Like if you really want something, um, there and you're kind of showing to others around you that you have that craving, right? If it's meant to be, then it's going to work out that way. And thankfully, it worked out with the Tefillin Project and them gifting
100%.
me.
I guess speaking of
Yeah.
Tefillin Project, your own giveaway, why don't you tell us more about that?
I would love to. You mean in terms of like my personal giveaway, or you mean in general? Like,
Your personal giveaway, what it felt, what it meant to you. I guess putting your own pair of tefillin on after you got your own pair. Like, what did that whole experience mean to you? I mean, I saw videos, it looked amazing. Sad I wasn't able to be there, but why don't you tell us more about it?
yeah, it was really, really special. Super special moment. I mean, like I had my rabbi Zach Hurwitz that was there, who was kind of like the first, and it was actually a really special moment, honestly, because of the people that were there. I had my rabbi that was really kind of Rabbi Hurwitz. He was the person that kind of really got me introduced and exposed to Judaism overall. And then I also had my rebbeim at the Shar, who I was learning with every day, who I they picked up very like father figure roles in my eyes. And so I value them and I hold them at a very, very high place in my life. And so like both of those kind of separate entities, quote unquote, like different these different rabbis that played such an immense role in my story. The fact that they were able to be there at the giveaway was super special. But overall, just like the camaraderie within the room, like I didn't know all the guys there, but them cheering for me and them singing Mazel Tov for me and congratulating me, it was a super special moment. Yeah, 1000%. And it honestly gave me a lot of like I'm sure in life, not every day. I mean, nothing is always going to be. You're always going to have your ups and downs, your highs and your lows, and it's not every day where I wake up. I could be waking up a little late. I have a meeting to run to or whatever, but I know that I have to put on tefillin, and sometimes that it's more of a obligation that kicks in than a want, unfortunately, but I think that's life. And honestly, like it's that moment when I have that, that feeling of like there were so many people involved of getting me this pair of tefillin that I have right here. Actually, like so many people were involved behind that. Right? It's not that it just came to me. Right? People flew in from Israel. People drove up to the shard to see me. My rabbis planned it. So it's so like the fact of me knowing what had to be put in order for me to really have this tefillin was really like a lot. It kind of like pushes me in some days where like I have to choose whether I wrap tefillin or I get in my car and go to school or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's like those decisions. I think I get led to an answer because of the story of how I got my giveaway.
Beautiful. Ironically, your giveaway was our first giveaway that we started the iconic chairlift. Because of
Really?
I don't know if you remember your chairlift. There's like a famous picture out there. Because of that giveaway, I think we've done 5 or 6 giveaways since then, maybe more. Every single giveaway, we try to do the famous chairlift, and it all started by Mikey. So thank you for that. But I guess since you got your own pair, well, what does it feel like? Putting it on every single day. I know you're saying like, because the way it was given to you, you feel like you have an obligation to put on every single day. But like, what does it mean to like wake up and it's like I, Mikey Goldman, have my own pair of tefillin to put on? Like I know you're
Yeah,
telling me that you feel some sort of special connection to some sort of special, I guess, relaxed feeling. But maybe you touch on that a little more.
1000%. When I wake up in the morning, I really do try every day to wrap it first thing, and it allows me to honestly, majority of my prayers, thank God, is oriented around my family, my closest friends, and unfortunately, like nowadays, well, not even unfortunately, but also a lot of my prayers about my friends in the IDF, Israel overall, and Jews around the world. And so, by being able to wake up and one of the first thoughts of your day is, I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for my friends. I pray that they're going to have a great day. I pray for the protection of Jews around the world. It kind of like puts you in this state where like you're not. There's just such a bigger picture that you have to be mindful of, right? It's not you. Not everything is about you in this world, and it makes me feel very, very grateful for like what I have, 1000%, for being able to wake up, like even like the simple things, being able to walk, being able to wake up, breathe, be in a bed, right? It's like it just puts me on a very, very good internal kind of like wavelength, quote unquote, but in a way where I'm just able to like start my day on a super positive note. And that thing that I said earlier, like how for me personally, it's like a way for me to talk to God because um everyone has their own ways of communicating with God, and I honestly, I try to do it more. It's not just like the when I wrap tefillin is not the only time that I talk to God. I talk to God a lot throughout my day. My point is that it's like you can shoot your mom a quick "I love you" text, or you can give her a phone call and say, "Hey, like thank you so much for everything you do. I love you. This, and that." It's a more deepening, it's a more like meaningful conversation, if that makes sense. And so that's kind of like what the film provides me and my connection with God. So
I like that. I like that analogy. Can you
thank
either
you.
shoot your mom an "I love you" text or give her a
I
phone
would,
call?
after
That's
this,
great. That is great. I guess to end off, this has been amazing so far. I think people that hopefully listen to this can gain so much from your experience with tefillin and your insights, and hopefully can change their lives and the way they approach the mitzvah, maybe even start doing the mitzvah. So speaking of people who are new to the mitzvah, are looking to increase their, I guess, observance of it, whether getting their own pair, putting on once, putting on a couple times a week, putting on daily, is there one piece of advice you have for them that you think could change the way they approach the mitzvah or something like that?
Well, I think I personally believe that your relationship with God is very, very personal, and especially um, getting onto this journey of like your spiritual path when people around you might be doing certain things that are a little bit too advanced for you, or maybe you might not really be fully understanding of why they're doing certain things. That's totally okay. And I think you should also, as a person that's very new, I think you should try to seek out an environment that's super accepting of that. Because if you're around people that are, might be putting you down for a lack of knowledge, or might be putting you down for a lack of experience, then it's like I think those people are missing the point. And the beauty of, honestly, like, I don't mean to advertise or whatever. I'm not paid by the Shar, but the environment that I'm currently in, it's a program that's really tailored towards guys who grew up with not much religion going on in their early days. So the Rebbeim, my peers, the people that are in the actual yeshiva and the community itself, they're so, like, they love seeing the guys like myself, because it's like, for them, it's like, you can be anywhere in the world right now, right? Like, I'm 20 years old. Friday nights, I could be at a college campus going out and doing things that aren't going to be putting me in the best position, if you will, right? Instead, I'm having a lovely meal with the family in the 5 towns. Just kind of being in an environment, I think, is super critical, and understanding that you need to have the right people around you to be supporting you, to be pushing you, and to just like help you elevate yourself, and on top of that, going back to what I said in terms of like your personal connection with God, I think it's super important to just be like, hey, listen, maybe there are things that work for yourself. There are things that work for me. And you should understand that, there's a really big, and I don't want to take too much of your time, but there's a really big commonality that you should have your Jewish name on your tefillin bag. And so, like, right here, I wrote Mikey G. I know my Michael Yonasan Ben Avraham is my Jewish name. And for me,
Can you show the viewers the tone back if you don't mind?
Yeah. So I wrote Mikey G over here because that's kind of like what I call myself and what I tell people to call me. And so when I wake up every morning and I look at the tefillin bag as I open up and grab my pair of tefillin, I see the words Mikey G written on it, right? And it's kind of a reminder to me, as a way for me to just always be like, don't forget yourself. You know what I mean? Like, don't lose yourself and don't rush things. Religion is a very, very beautiful thing. And you want this journey. You don't want to get to the top the quickest. You want to get to the top learning and soaking up as much as you can on your journey up to the top. So that would be my takeaway and advice.
Mikey, this has been an amazing, unbelievable podcast. I think our viewers could benefit so much from it. Thank you so much for joining. And I love that last point you ended off on. It's all about the small steps. In Hebrew, they say la'at, la'at. Now, you don't need to jump. There's a classic statement. Not a sprint. It's a marathon. So hopefully with that, our viewers, our listeners could take that with them and realize the religious journey, it's not about reaching the end goal like that. Give it time. Take some days, months, years. Allow the process to work out itself, and you don't need to rush. Mikey, thank you so much again. Look forward to hopefully having you back on it another time.
Thank you so much. Bye, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to Wrapped for our 4th episode. Mikey showed us the beauty that the mitzvah of tefillin offers every single Jew, an opportunity to directly communicate with Hashem in the way that connects most to you.